the one who hides under people's skin. A foggy night road, a car standing on the side of the road, headlights cutting through the darkness. This happened to us 10 years ago. My name is Max. I am a third-year journalism student. My best friend Jason also studies at my faculty. I have a girlfriend named Emmy. We recently celebrated our 2-year anniversary. That night began like all the other weekends of the semester. The plan was to quickly leave for a week's vacation, disconnect from our daily routines, and wake up in a cabin in the mountains, where our friends from the student council had organized a week-long getaway with hiking, alcohol, and bonfires. In the car were me, my friend Jason, and my girlfriend Emmy. We drove along the winding road, stifling our boredom with a pop-punk playlist and sharing jokes about the future. It was like something out of a movie, a 15-hour drive, 2 cases of beer in the trunk, and a rare chance to put everyday life on hold for a whole week. But in life, there are little things like tires that can turn the road into a maze. Somewhere around the bend, without warning, we heard a long, drawn-out screech of metal and a distinctive pop. The car veered off to the side, and Jason, who likes to fix everything himself, jerked the steering wheel, pulled over to the side of the road, and jumped out to check on the car. The tire was flat. Of course, there was no spare. No alarms on our phones. The network was spotty, irony of fate. It was already well past midnight, and it would take at least 2 hours to reach the nearest civilization. We tried to call the guys. Messages hung in sending. Voice messages did not connect. It was unlikely that they were waiting for us. It was still about a 4-hour drive to the cottage, and they had already started a wild party with plenty of alcohol. We understood that they weren't thinking about us right now, and at the same time, we felt abandoned. We decided to leave the car on the side of the road, as cars only pass by every few hours on this road, and there was no one to wait for help. Taking a few things for the night and flashlights, we set off to find help. We decided to walk to the nearest house, ask for help, call our friends, get a spare tire, or wait for a tow truck. It all seemed logical. An hour's walk turned into 2. The asphalt gave way to a country gravel road. The forest grew denser, and the wind rustled the leaves. Finally, we saw a small settlement with about 20 houses with dark windows, and one small house where the lights were still on. The small village looked like a scene from an old movie. Mailboxes, signs, old lawns. The eerie silence was so oppressive that our footsteps seemed too loud. We knocked on the doors of the houses closest to the beginning of the village, but no one answered. The doors were locked, the curtains drawn. Finally, we reached the house with the light on. The door was opened by a beautiful girl with skin as white as snow. She was frighteningly beautiful, as if she had stepped out of some incredible painting. Slender shoulders, calm features, hair that fell on her shoulders like a dark night. I felt my heart skip a beat, not because she was a model, but because there was something mystically enchanting in her gaze. A gaze that beckoned without words or gestures, something you don't see in ordinary people. We explained the situation: a flat tire, a phone that was almost dead, friends who weren't answering, and asked her if we could stay the night and deal with the car in the morning. Without asking any questions, she let us in, smiled, and insisted on offering us tea. The house was warm and smelled of bread and something old, perhaps books and the lingering smoke from the fireplace. "My name is Leah," she said. She also told us that she lived alone, that her new husband had once decided to go on his first solo fishing trip without friends and had disappeared without a trace. No one had seen him for almost 2 years. It all sounded like a legend made up for tourists. But there was a quiet sadness in her voice that made me listen even more attentively. We talked, ate her sandwiches in the kitchen, and laughed. I made jokes, and my charming Emmy teased me. Jason was silent and stared at Leah more than necessary. It was clear from his gaze that the boy had lost his head over her. Leah went to prepare rooms for us to rest in, one for me and Emmy, and one separately for Jason. Although at first she was going to prepare a separate room for each of us, but Emmy and I asked for one room for the two of us, as it was much more comfortable for both of us, and she agreed. When the three of us were left alone in the kitchen, Jason finally spoke. He said, "Friends, it looks like I'm about to marry my first, only, and true love for life. So get your outfits ready for my wedding." Leah is beautiful. I enjoyed watching her in the dim light, how the light from the lamp gently fell on her neck, how she, frowning slightly, prepared sandwiches for us so attentively as if she were creating something important. I have never seen anything more beautiful. Every gesture she made, simple, calm, seemed like a small miracle to me. When she handed me a plate of sandwiches, I felt that it was in moments like these that you understand what it means to love, quietly, deeply, and forever. After such a long monologue from Jason, Emmy and I were speechless. We had never heard him say such words about love before, and just as we were beginning to recover, Leah approached and informed us that our rooms were ready. The night slowly slipped away into the hallway, with the muffled ticking of an old clock. Emma and I were already resting in the room that Leah had given us. Emma fell asleep instantly, and only I remained on the border between wakefulness and rest. Before going to sleep, I decided to send a message to my friends in case the connection was restored and they would receive the message, rather than just wasting time. I wrote, "We're in a small village about a 3-hour drive from you. We have a flat tire. Please pick us up in the morning. The car is on the side of the road. The name of the village is Havenfall. We are staying with a nice girl named Leah. You will definitely like her. Don't lose your head." The message disappeared into the void of notifications. Lying in my soft bed, I couldn't sleep. Fragments of today's events were spinning in my head. Suddenly, I heard the quiet rustle of footsteps coming from the hallway. I pressed myself against the sheet and tried to listen. Someone knocked softly on Jason's bedroom door. "Jason, are you awake?" I heard. So it's Leah, I thought. Jason's door opened slightly. "Leah?" "No, I'm awake. Is something wrong?" he whispered. "Yes, I need your help with something," she replied quietly, her voice so playful and inviting, almost whispering, beckoning you to something forbidden and secret. I got up quietly, trying not to wake Emmy, and went to the door. Through the crack, I saw Leah touching Jason's shoulder. They were whispering playfully about something, a slight smile on their lips. He whispered something in her ear and was about to step back into his room to get his clothes. But Leah quietly said, "Don't. Follow me." And he, half dressed, followed her. They walked down the dark hallway and disappeared into the darkness. Seeing all this, I smiled and thought, today Jason is going to have an unforgettable night that he will tell his children about when they grow up and ask how he met their mother. I went back to bed envying Jason because my beautiful Emmy and I could have had the same hot and unforgettable night tonight, but alas, she is asleep. A few minutes later, my phone vibrated. A reply from my friends had arrived, but it wasn't the one I was hoping for. "Man, we can't get through to you. If you see this message, leave as quickly as possible without wasting a second. We've never heard of Havenfall. It's not on any maps. I've gathered the guys and we're on our way to you." The message was from Ryan. The second message from Kate was completely different. "Where did you go? There's nothing there. Run away if you can. You may think I'm drunk and that's why I'm talking nonsense. But please listen to me." I remember my grandmother telling me a story about a village like this when I was a child. It's not people who live there, but creatures that pretend to be people in order to catch humans for a snack. Anyone who stayed there never came back. You need to get out of there immediately before these creatures realize that you know more about them than they think. Hurry! When you go outside, all together say this phrase: "Wind, guide me. Fear, release me. Strength of the earth, let me escape. Show me the way and hide me from unholy claws. Turn around 3 times and run back the way you came without looking back. If you look back even once, you will never get out of there. I reread this message and my heart sank. I woke Emmy up. She looked at me, still seemingly shrouded in a foggy drowsiness. I told her everything in one breath. About Leah, about Jason, about the messages that sounded like a warning and a curse at the same time. Her face turned pale, but the determination in her eyes was real. "We'll find Jason and get out of here right now," she said. We gathered our things and went looking for Jason, but Leah and Jason weren't home. We went outside. There was fog on the street and the air was damp and cool. On the left side stood an old barn with the door ajar. Inside it was dark, with a distinct smell of hay. We walked quietly, trying not to make any noise. We crept up to the crack and peeked inside. What we saw made my throat constrict to a dry thread. Jason was lying on the hay. Leah was next to him. He was lying with his eyes closed, ready to kiss her. She was hovering over him with a knife in her hand. Everything happened as if in slow motion. She leaned over his neck, her hand trembling with anticipation. And Jason, lying on the hay, thought that now would be the long-awaited kiss he had been craving from her. But instead she raised the knife and, as if in a nightmare, ran the cold blade across his neck. The slight cut burned his skin. Blood appeared on his skin, and he immediately jerked, opening his eyes in horror, while a smile appeared on her lips that was not human. In horror, I shouted, "Jason, run!" He saw us. His gaze darted confusedly between me, Emmy, and Leah. He pushed Leah aside with all his strength, preparing to run toward us, but Leah still managed to grab his leg. Her actions were lightning fast. He fell, and I saw her face. No, not her face, but her mask of skin begin to distort. It stretched like fabric, and a shapeless, terrifying face began to emerge from it. My back burned with cold from what I had just seen. At that moment, Emmy, without thinking, grabbed a fist-sized rock that was lying next to the barn door where we were standing and threw it with all her might at the creature that was pretending to be Leah. The rock hit the creature, and for a moment it groaned and backed away. Jason took advantage of this moment, got up, and ran towards us. We tried to close the barn door with the old massive bolt that was there, while Leah, or whatever was under her appearance, came to her senses and rushed after us. Her movements became as fast as those of a beast, but just as she was a few steps away from us, we managed to close the door. The creature was pushing against the gate, trying to open it from the inside. The wood creaked as if protesting against the impossible. Its claws dug into the wood of the gate, and we could hear the crackling from outside. The creature was trying to break down the gate and get out, its voice a mixture of howling cries and metallic screeches. And then I remembered the message, the phrase we all had to say together and run away from this place before the beast came out of the barn. I wasn't sure about the words Katie had written to me, but at that moment, all we had was faith in the instructions that children were told before bedtime. I could hear Emmy's heart pounding in her chest, and I knew that soon she would be unable to move at all from fear. Suddenly I realized that retreating meant losing everything. Myself, my beloved, my loved ones, my memories, and my life. We had to run back without looking back. I told them that now they would have to do everything I said without question, and we would get out of there. I told them what to do, and we stood side by side, Jason, Emmy, and me, and said at the same time, "Wind, guide me, fear, release me. Strength of the earth, let me escape, show me the way, and hide me from unholy claws." Although the phrase sounded silly, in children's legends it was not just a phrase, but a plan to escape from the creature that was about to break down the gate and catch us. We spun around 3 times as instructed, and at that moment the monster almost broke through the barn door. Seeing this, we jumped up and ran away, without looking back, running to the same place we had come from just a few hours earlier. Running was painful. My heart was pounding, my legs were buckling, but fear gave me speed. We didn't dare turn around, even though we could hear a scream behind us, which at first sounded like a woman's, then a high-pitched child's, then the voices of many people, as if the settlement had awakened and was whispering in languages that don't exist in our real world. Somewhere in the middle of our marathon run, we heard a child crying, thin, plaintive. The voice said, "Mommy, Mommy, where are you? Where is my mommy? Help, please. I'm hurt. I'm very scared. Mommy, Mommy." Suddenly, Emmy's legs faltered, and she began to slow down, preparing to turn back to where the plaintive voice of the little girl was coming from. Emmy was overcome with a strong maternal instinct to help this little girl. "It's a child," she said, turning to us. But Jason didn't flinch. On the contrary, he quickened his pace and left us behind, covering his ears with his hands. Apparently, he too was tempted to help the defenseless child. I decided to match my pace to Emmy's, grabbed her hand, my fingers squeezing her delicate little hand, and said quietly, barely audibly, "Don't turn around. It's not a child. It's a trap. If you do that and stay here forever, I'll do the same, because I can't live without you." She squeezed my hand tighter in response, and I knew she wouldn't leave me. We gritted our teeth and began to speed up our pace. At that moment, the child's crying turned into the eerie laughter of a monster, a metallic screech, a scream that pierced through the entire space. It screamed, "You won't be able to escape anyway. Nothing will help. You chose the wrong path. Come back and I might spare you." But we ran without looking back. The hour-long run felt like an eternity. We ran until the forest began to thin out, until the horizon revealed familiar landscapes, and we reached the highway. Our car was still there, and seeing it brought us relief. We realized that we had managed to get out of this place, turned around, and saw that behind us, everything had disappeared. Only the highway was visible. No settlements, no houses, no forest. An empty road, pitch darkness, and only us. I wouldn't have believed it if someone had told me such a thing. We got into the car and waited for our friends in complete silence, each lost in our own thoughts. After a while, dawn began to break, and in the distance we saw 3 cars approaching us on the highway. It was our friends. They stopped next to us. They got out of the car and asked us, "Where have you been? How did you manage not to bring a spare tire? How did we end up in a village that isn't on the map?" But they fell silent when they saw us, and their faces changed. Ryan grabbed Jason by the shoulders, as if checking whether he was alive or not. While Jason stood silently, staring at the asphalt without raising his head, Katie quickly ran up to Emma, worried about her. Emma was sitting in the car with the door open, covered with a blanket that I had taken for sitting around the campfire with the guys. The others stood and didn't dare ask us what had happened. So without asking any questions, they started helping us with the car. Soon our car was ready and some of the guys drove ahead to the cottage, where we had planned to go yesterday. Ryan and Katie decided to come with us. Ryan silently got behind the wheel, realizing from the look on our faces that neither Jacob nor I had yet recovered from everything that had happened to us today. Jacob sat in the front seat and stared out the window the whole way, touching the wound on his neck that his failed love of his life, Leah, had recently left. We sat in the back. Emmy sat between me and Katie, resting her head on Katie, and Katie, who had written to us about how to escape this, stroked Emmy's head to calm her down. Even so, Emmy was still trembling, so I held her hand the whole trip to support her. We were broken and exhausted when we left that place. Everything around us seemed erased, as if nothing had ever been there. No forest, no Leah, no village, and no monster. It was as if someone had wiped a crooked line on a canvas and another stroke had added a random landscape. But now I know that somewhere out there, deep in the forest, in an old settlement that isn't on any maps, creatures still hide their true nature behind the faces of seemingly ordinary people. They learn to smoothly copy humanity, smiles, gestures, intonations, movements, and over time become frighteningly similar to us, which is where their real danger lies. I don't know exactly how to stop them. But I know one thing. If you ever find yourself on the road in the middle of the night and see a house with a light on, and if someone offers you warm tea and shelter, remember, not everything that shines wants what's best for you. And if you suddenly hear the crying voice of a child calling you for help in such an old settlement that is not on the map, don't look back, run. Say, wind, guide me, fear, release me, strength of the earth, let me escape, show me the way, and hide me from unholy claws. Turn around 3 times and run without looking back. Because if you turn around, the road home will disappear, and who knows where your footsteps will lead you tomorrow. When the guys picked us up, we didn't tell them anything, and they tried not to bring up the subject. But 10 years later, when we had already graduated from university and were sitting at another annual alumni meeting, they decided to ask us if we would have told them the truth at that moment. They said they would have thought we were crazy, so we just said that we had a flat tire, found a strange house, were almost cheated, and when we decided to go back to the car, we simply got lost. Of course, they didn't believe us, but they pretended that this answer suited them and didn't ask any more questions. Only Katie understood what we had really experienced that day. Rarely, of course, but still, there are nights when I have nightmares that we never made it out of there. But when I see my lovely wife Emmy waking me up from these nightmares and looking at me with a worried expression, asking if everything is okay, I realize that it's just a past experience that we will never have again. And this realization makes me feel better. I hug Emmy and we go to sleep together in each other's arms. If you like this story and want to hear more, don't forget to subscribe.